Tonight, a sentence of life in prison. Brian Kohberger, convicted of killing 4 University of Idaho students, sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Victims' families addressing him in court today before he was taken to prison for the rest of his life. A driver sues a Florida police department amid outrage over his violent arrest. Disturbing video shows what happened during what should have been a routine traffic stop. The state attorney says the officer will not face charges. William McNeil, the driver in the video, speaks out for the first time and talks to us about that day. What went through your mind at that moment when the deputy broke your window and punches you in the face as you sit in the car?
I was scared, frightened.
Consumer debt in America is at an all-time high, more than $18 trillion in household debt in the first quarter alone. And now, thanks to what experts call a perfect storm, medical debt, college loans, and buy now, pay later plans, Americans could see their credit scores plummet. What you need to know and how to protect yourself. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, largely considered a 2028 presidential hopeful, weighs in on President Trump's first 6 months. We sat down with him at the Aspen Ideas Climate Conference for a wide-ranging conversation from what's happening to our planet to if he'd make a good president. Do you think you would make a good president?
I think I've been a good governor, and I have no idea, except that I think the bar has been set pretty low.
And 4 Emmy wins, nearly 30 nominations this year alone. Mariana Van Zeller has made a name for herself as a fearless journalist. And tonight she's here to talk about her hit series where she goes inside global black markets to uncover how criminal networks really operate and why this season may be her most urgent yet.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. It is a busy Wednesday night, and we begin this hour with the raw emotion, tears inside an Idaho courtroom at the sentencing of Brian Kohberger in the Idaho college murders case. The victims, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, grandparents all went face to face with the man who confessed to taking the lives of their young loved ones. Kohberger sat stone-faced. He did not react. He did not say why. The former PhD student who trained in criminology today was wearing the orange jumpsuit of a convict. Steve Goncalves moved to the podium so he could speak directly and look at the man who took his daughter Kaylee's life, saying, "We are here to finish what you started." Kaylee's sister openly mocked Kohberger. Xana Kernodle's mother sobbing in court, but standing to tell Kohberger, "Jesus has allowed me to forgive you," and she will not let him rent space in her head anymore. Brian Kohberger was given the chance to speak. Instead, he simply said, "I respectfully decline." Arkana Whitworth has covered the story from the very beginning 3 years ago, leads us off tonight from Idaho. Hi, Kana.
Hey, Lindsay. So you know who else was in that courtroom today was a lot of law enforcement. And I had a chance to speak with former Moscow Police Chief James Fry, who also looked Brian Kohberger in the face today for the very first time. He told me he saw cold and evil. But Chief Fry also expressed some gratitude and some pride in the fact that he was able to deliver on a promise that he made to the victims' families and the community that this case would not go cold.
On this final judgment day, convicted killer Brian Kohberger forced to face the families of his victims and a survivor of his vicious attack, killing 4 college students near the University of Idaho. Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. Kaylee's father moving the podium to look directly at the man he says stabbed his daughter 34 times.
We are here to finish what you started. Today, you've lost control. Today, we are here to prove to the world that you picked the wrong families.
Kohberger showing no reaction as he listened to the gut-wrenching testimony from victims.
Dylan, just take your time, all right?
Dylan Mortensen, one of 2 roommates who survived the rampage, speaking for the first time, overcome with emotion as she described her trauma.
I couldn't be alone. I had to sleep in my mom's bed because I was too terrified to close my eyes. Terrified that if I blinked, someone might be there. I made escape plans everywhere I went. If something happens, how do I get out?
It was Dylan who saw a masked man, later identified as Kohberger, walk right past her that night.
He is a hollow vessel, something less than human. A body without empathy, without remorse. He chose destruction. He chose evil. He feels nothing. He tried to take everything from me. My friends, my safety, my identity, my future. He took their lives, but I will continue trying to be like them, to make them proud.
To avoid the death penalty, Kohberger pleaded guilty to stabbing the 4 students to death in that off-campus house. The murders sending shockwaves across a college town and the country. And today, the victims' parents remembered the young lives full of so much promise.
Maddie was my only child that I ever had. She's the only great thing I ever really did, and the only thing I was really ever proud of.
Xana's mother saying she's ready to forgive.
This forgiveness has released me from any and all evil you have inflicted on me and my family.
But most family members lashed out at Kohberger in anguish and anger.
You're gonna go to hell.
The Gonzalez family, who wanted the death penalty today, openly mocking the former PhD criminology student.
You're pathetic. You aren't special or deep, not mysterious or exceptional.
Kaylee's sister hammered Kohberger one last time with the questions he's never answered.
Where is the murder weapon? The clothes you wore that night? What were Kaylee's last words?
And she tried getting under his skin.
If you were really smart, do you think you'd be here right now? If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your ass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Prosecutors then asking for 4 life sentences without parole, showing that final photo taken just 12 hours before the murders. Crying heard in the courtroom.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, you have an opportunity to make a statement if you wish to. I take it you are declining.
I respectfully decline.
Kohberger declined to speak or reveal a motive before the judge gave him life behind bars with these blistering parting words.
A faceless coward breached the tranquility of 6 beautiful young people and senselessly slaughtered them, 4 of them. The person that slithered through that sliding glass door at 1122 King Road now stands before the world and this court unmasked. No parent should ever have to bury their child. In my view, the time has now come to end Mr. Kohberger's 15 minutes of fame.
Outside the courthouse, the Gonzalez family ready to move forward.
I made eye contact with him and he was enraged. He was just enraged. So, mission accomplished. We can move on now. We said what we needed to say.
Kana joins us once again from Idaho. With regard to those questions, those unanswered questions like the motive, the murder weapon, why he did this just in general, where the clothes were that he wore that night. Should we assume that we'll never get the answers?
I think the short answer there is no, Lindsay. I spoke with authorities today who say that in the coming weeks and months, as more documents are unsealed, we will learn more about the forensic evidence that was found inside that home, as well as who Kohberger might have been after that night. And Lindsay, as we're speaking, some of those documents are actually dropping. And one of the things that we've learned so far is that Kaylee Gonzalez sadly was unrecognizable because of her injuries, Lindsay.
Wow. So what comes next?
Right, that's a big question here. So there will be an assessment period of Brian Kohberger here that could take 7 to 14 days, and the Idaho Department of Corrections will decide where to place him. It could be at the Idaho Maximum Security Facility in which we toured the other day, and there are various levels of security there, Lindsay, but they are trying to figure out where he will spend the rest of his life.
Such finality to that. All right, Kana Whitworth, our thanks to you. Next tonight, to the major development involving President Trump and the Jeffrey Epstein files. Tonight, the Wall Street Journal is reporting Attorney General Pam Bondi and her deputy Todd Blanche told President Trump back in May that his name does appear in the Epstein files multiple times. Our chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce reports.
Tonight, the Wall Street Journal reporting that Attorney General Pam Bondi and her deputy Todd Blanche informed President Trump in May that his name appears multiple times in the Epstein files. They reportedly told Trump they did not plan to release the files, saying they contain child pornography and personal information about the victims. According to the Journal, the president said he would defer to their decision. Last week, when pressed by ABC's Catherine Falders, Trump denied Bondi told him his name was in the files.
What did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing. And in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen.
The next day, I asked him,
"Is your name in these files, Mr. President? Is that why they aren't being fully released?"
Let's go.
The Journal reports Trump was told there were other high-profile names in the documents, noting being in the files is not evidence of wrongdoing. Tonight, the Attorney General saying nothing in the files warranted further investigation or prosecution, adding as part of our routine briefing, we made the president aware of the findings. Trump and Epstein were friendly for more than a decade, socializing in New York and Palm Beach. Epstein was asked about their relationship in a 2010 deposition in a civil suit.
Have you ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?
What do you mean by personal relationships?
Have you socialized with him?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
When Epstein was arrested in 2019, Trump said they'd had a falling out and hadn't spoken in 15 years. During the campaign, some of the president's top supporters, including his current FBI director, Kash Patel, and Patel's deputy, Dan Bongino, spread ominous conspiracy theories about the Epstein case. Vice President J.D. Vance called for the release of Epstein's so-called client list.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
In February, Bondi said that client list was in her possession.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump.
But over the July 4th weekend, the Justice Department and the FBI said the list doesn't exist and that they wouldn't be releasing any more information about Jeffrey Epstein. Under pressure, the president later instructed Bondi to ask courts in Florida and New York to release grand jury testimony in the Epstein case. Today, a Florida judge denied that request, saying the DOJ didn't provide enough of a justification for releasing that sensitive testimony, adding the court's hands are tied. Tonight on Capitol Hill, Republicans and Democrats on a House Oversight Committee voting to subpoena the Justice Department to release the full Epstein files. Hours earlier, the full committee issuing a subpoena to Epstein's former companion, Ghislaine Maxwell, who's serving a 20-year prison sentence for child trafficking. And Linsey Maxwell is also planning to meet with the Deputy Attorney General soon. Asked tonight about that congressional subpoena, her attorney says that upcoming meeting with the Justice Department will, quote, help inform how she proceeds. And again, we should note, Maxwell is serving a 20-year sentence and is looking for a way out. Linsey.
Mary, thank you. Joining us now for more is Tennessee Republican Representative Tim Burchett. Thank you so much for joining us. You led the effort in the House Oversight Committee to subpoena Ghislaine Maxwell. Chairman Comer followed through with that officially today. What does the House of Representatives hope to learn from her with regard to Jeffrey Epstein?
I'd like to know the cash flow. I'd like to know the client list. I'd like to know the apparatus they use, the method of getting these young folks. I just like to know all of it. And she's the last one standing. Everybody says, well, she's going to lie. I said, well, if she perjures herself, she goes back to her original sentence. So there's a lot of things I'd like to get, ma'am, and hopefully, and I'm going to talk to some attorneys, some of my attorneys friends in town. I talked to Greg Isaacs earlier today about some strategies and things that make sure I ask the right questions if I get that opportunity, because it will be, I think it'll be monumental. And I would warn people, I want to make sure we don't drag in innocent people in the middle of this thing. Somebody just happened to be on a plane from New York to Florida or somewhere like that. Doesn't necessarily mean they're a pedophile. And the 1,000 little girls that this dirtbag violated or took part in having violated. I I sure as heck don't want to make them suffer anymore.
So it sounds pretty clear that you will be heading to that Florida prison on August 11th. Will the public learn about what is said by Maxwell that day?
I don't know. Like I said, I hope I get that opportunity. I'm the 435th most powerful member of Congress, ma'am. I get the game up here. I don't raise enough money, and I don't get enough behinds. I guess I'll clean it up. To move up in the leadership structure, I just kind of caused a little firestorm on this one. And frankly, I'm glad of it. I've held the hand of people that have been molested, and ma'am, they carry a life sentence, and it is horrible. I want to send a message to the dirtbags that were coming for you, but I'd also like to send a message to those young souls, and now they're older, I guess, that have been offended, that they can come out of the shadows, and that we need to love on those folks and not point a finger at them and stigmatize them. They've had enough of that, and I would hope the media would honor that as well.
The Wall Street Journal is reporting that AG Pam Bondi and Deputy AG Todd Blanche informed Trump in May his name was, in fact, in the Epstein files. Your response to that?
That doesn't bother me. President Trump said all along he flew on his plane. There's pictures. A lot of them are AI generated. They show Trump with kids, and those are just AI generated. But they knew each other. But President Trump's been very forthcoming in his response to that. You know, before Epstein was even convicted, Trump had already banned him, I think 15 years prior, from Mar-a-Lago. And he said he was a dirtbag. And the area down there in Florida is a pretty tight-knit little community. Everybody knew everybody. And Trump cut him loose, and I salute him for that. And his efforts before the grand jury to try to get the grand jury information released, as I thought was a very good first step. I thought the judge just stopped it all. I thought they could have assigned somebody to go through it and pull out all the innocent folks and the names. And we do that all the time, redact stuff all the time. You want to go look at the Kennedy files 60 years ago, and we still don't know what went on there. So I think what I'm afraid of now, ma'am, is that we've had 4 years, the Biden administration, and now this. And I'm afraid that those files have been tampered with, and a lot of the information, I'm afraid, we'll never know the true answers to.
If President Trump himself were to call you and asked you to just put this fight aside, what would you say to him?
Well, I've said it publicly, and he knows it. Ultimately, I'm a Christian. I'm not a very good one. You don't see it on my bio or anything, but ultimately I'm going to answer to my Creator, ma'am. Jesus said, how you treat the least amongst you is how you treat me. And that's going to be my conscience. Again, I'm not a very good Christian, obviously, because of my chosen profession, but I live by that. And again, I know people that have been abused, not by Epstein, but in other cases. And it's something it's etched on my soul. I don't know how else to tell you that, ma'am. It's kind of hard to explain, but that's where my heart is, and I'll take it. I got it. I get it. It's going to cost me at the ballot box. It's going to cost me financially. It's going to be tough to raise money when people start getting after me on it. But I'm a big boy, ma'am. I gotta take it. So, and this is something I didn't ask for, but I'm very passionate about this issue, ma'am. I'll just leave it at that.
We hear that. All right. Representative Tim Burchett, we thank you, as always, for your time. Really appreciate you joining the show.
Thank you, ma'am, and I appreciate the fair reporting on this issue.
Thank you. Now to the violent traffic stop in Jacksonville, Florida. Officers told William McNeil they pulled him over for not having his lights on in the middle of the day. McNeil recorded the moments that followed, and we must warn you, the video can be disturbing. We'll talk to McNeil and his attorney coming up, but first, ABC's Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas has the details.
Tonight, the Jacksonville sheriff acknowledging that this video showing his deputy smashing a car window and punching the driver in the face is ugly.
Show me your hands.
Yet another incident raising questions about excessive force and race and policing. 22-year-old William McNeil Jr. today appearing with his parents and attorneys to discuss what happened on February 19th during a routine traffic stop. Police claiming that he didn't have his headlights on in inclement weather, and that he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Allegations that McNeil disputes.
There's no rain. It doesn't matter. You're still required to have headlights on. Can you call your supervisor? Huh? Can you call your supervisor? All right, go for it.
vehicle now. Exit the vehicle.
McNeil, who remains calm despite the powerful punch and does not fight back, is pulled out of his car as the officer delivers another punch. Officers demanding he show his hands. Court records show that McNeil pleaded guilty to resisting arrest without violence and driving with a suspended license. Police claim that he reached for a knife on the floor of his car, but body camera footage released by the police does not show McNeil reaching for a knife. The officer who smashed the window and punched McNeil has been stripped of law enforcement duties, pending an internal review. Linsey?
Pierre, thank you. We're joined now by William McNeil and his attorney, Harry Daniels. We thank you both so much for joining us tonight. William, let's start with you. Walk us through what happened and what led you to turn your camera on and start filming on your phone.
Well, the officer put his hand on his gun and reached out for me, so I closed my door and started recording. I did what was best. Yeah, so
They said your headlights were not on and should have been on in what they described as inclement weather, correct?
Yeah, correct.
But there are those people who would say, hey, why not just cooperate when they're pulling you over? Why lock yourself inside the car and refuse to get out initially?
That's where I felt safe at. I wasn't going to get out the car because my head was during the daytime. And then you put your hand on your gun and reach out for me. I feared for my life. And I know how officers of JSO are towards black men here in Jacksonville.
What went through your mind at that moment when the deputy broke your window and punches you in the face as you sit in the car?
I was surprised. I was scared, frightened. I grew up being told that officers protect us, but that wasn't the case.
How did you feel when you heard the sheriff say that the state's attorney's office found no criminality in the deputy's actions?
I haven't been listening to the sheriff.
Mr. Daniels, your reaction?
My reaction to no criminality is it's not shocking, not surprising by JSO. As William put it, JSO has a history of brutality against African-American males. We have represented multiple people against JSO, and it always started some type of pretextual stop, like a seatbelt infraction, which is a civil violation, $15 fine, and in some cases leading to young men being killed, some been savagely beaten. So I echo what William was saying, who's afraid of JSO. JSO has a brutal history of treating young African Americans very harsh and using unlawful use of force. To the prosecuting office not bringing criminal charges, it's ridiculous.
And Mr. Daniels, you have said that you plan to file a lawsuit. When do you expect to take legal action, and what do you hope to see ultimately as the outcome?
Well, we are in the process of taking legal action, not just taking legal action in a civil matter. We also seeking redress from the Department of Justice. I know that may be shocking to some due to the current administration, but nevertheless, we're going to move formally request the Department of Justice to come into this particular matter, and we'll see what happens.
William, you said earlier today that growing up as a black man, you learned not to fight officers on the streets, but to fight in court. What kind of outcome are you hoping to see ultimately from a lawsuit?
The outcome that we all hoping to see, justice, justice for all black men, across America, across the world. It happens not just here, but everywhere. I'm not the only person this doesn't happen to. It's far worse has happened.
What would justice look like for you?
Fighting for what's right, better training of our officers, and better officers.
Has this impacted your outlook on police? Has it impacted you emotionally?
Emotionally, I have mixed emotions. I'm terrified of police currently. Anytime I see a cop, I really just don't want to be around them. Sometimes I get angry when I see a cop, but I don't let that affect me daily. I don't drive anymore. And that's pretty much it. No, I barely can sleep. That is another thing. Yeah, I can barely sleep. I get like 2 hours of sleep a night. I have flashbacks and nightmares,
William McNeil, Harry Daniels, we thank you both so much for your time. Really appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Federal authorities and the NYPD have arrested a man accused of building at least 7 homemade bombs, endangering countless lives if they had detonated. Police say 55-year-old Michael Gann ordered chemicals and other materials online to build explosives and then stashed some of the bombs on a Manhattan rooftop once they were built. Gann allegedly tossed one of the devices onto the Williamsburg Bridge subway tracks and had one on him when authorities apprehended him. A federal judge has blocked the Trump administration and ICE from detaining Kilmar Abrego Garcia after his release from criminal custody. Abrego Garcia has been in federal custody since he was returned to the United States and pled not guilty to charges of human smuggling. The Trump administration deported Abrego Garcia to El Salvador's CCOT mega prison in March, claiming that he was a member of the criminal gang MS-13. Abrego Garcia maintains his innocence. Coming up, many consider Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker a possible Democratic contender for the White House in 2028. I got a chance to catch up with him the other day for his take on the Trump administration's first 6 months and on his fellow Democrats.
But let's not walk away from civil rights because we lost an election.
And a diver is bitten in the arm by a shark while his dive partners were filming his survival story later in the show. Welcome back, everyone. It's been 6 months since President Trump took office for his second term, and as his administration has cut jobs across the government, Democrats have tried to sound the alarm about what they believe is happening to our planet. We had a chance to meet with Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker at the Aspen Ideas Climate Conference in Chicago this week, where we had a wide-ranging conversation with the governor, who many consider a 2028 hopeful. What has surprised him the most about Trump's first 6 months in office, and will the climate rollbacks impact Illinois? Here's part of our conversation.
1 year ago, you described combating the climate crisis as swimming up a waterfall. Since then, there are those critics who have said that the Trump administration has rolled back decades of progress when it comes to environmental protections. Is your progress for your state at risk?
It's at risk, for sure. I mean, in terms of the momentum, right? You can lessen the momentum. We're still heading in the right direction. But it's true that, when the Congress takes away features of the IRA, which was an enormous boost for many of us who are already going in the right direction, it makes it harder. I mean, we've been working on expanding industry in the state that's focused on climate action, or, industry that is about clean energy.
The UN has referred to this moment as climate crunch time and has said, to our own peril, if all nations do not reduce their greenhouse gases by 42% by 2030, it's going to be catastrophic. Do you think that that's even possible if we're just talking about the United States alone reaching that goal?
I don't know whether it's possible. I'll be honest with you. I think, I think many people have been screaming at the top of their lungs, rightfully so, about the necessity of climate action. If you want to accelerate the endeavor on climate action, you've got to make it understandable to everybody that there are jobs and economic opportunity available to them as a result of the change in our economy. I think people hadn't come to understand that very well in years past. So when we talk about can we get there by 2030 where we need to be, the answer is the incentives have to be in place. Now, whether that's incentives from the federal government in the United States, I wish those incentives weren't being taken away, but at least at the state level, we're pushing as hard as ever.
I'm curious, and you can take this question in any direction that you'd like. What keeps you up at night?
Yeah. I slept better before January. What keeps me up at night? Look, I have a 20-year-old son, a 22-year-old daughter. Their whole lives, and my whole life, I believe that our world has made progress in protecting people's freedoms, protecting their health. So what keeps me up at night is that it feels like every day, and here we're talking about climate action, it feels like every day the things that have been making progress for so many years, that yes, there have been setbacks from year to year, here and there. I feel like we're being set back in enormous amounts, particularly in this fight for people's health, that is what climate action is about.
Just last week, the Trump administration said that it's going to eliminate the scientific research arm of the EPA. As you know, a lot of that research has gone to making sure that our water, that our air is safe. You mentioned health just a little while ago. Does that open up opportunities for states, for private firms to take action?
It begins an enormous problem for the country. But does it open up an opportunity? Sure. But remember, the federal government has resources that states don't have. The federal government has resources that philanthropy can never come close to meeting. So it's problematic when they pull out of research.
Yesterday marked Donald Trump's 6th month in office for his second term. You've had some choice words for him, called him a madman, racist, homophobic, and on.
I said that?
Is there anything in particular that has surprised you about these first 6 months? I didn't think there was going to be a laugh line there.
Surprised me. I think, I don't know about everybody in the audience, but I think I've been surprised at the swiftness of the diminishment of our the future prospects for our country. Really, it's happened so quickly. The pulling back from research is one example of that, but I mean, think about the damage.
So on the flip side, a recent poll said that the majority of Americans view the Democratic Party as too woke, too weak, and out of touch. And so I'm curious what you think the party needs to do in order to rebuild, and if you support the current Democratic leadership in Washington.
I'm laughing because you can do a poll. I can find 3 adjectives to describe the worst things that you could, or anything really, that you could say about Republicans, and you can get a poll to tell you that 80% of people in the Republican Party agree with you. You just can. And, so sure, I can find some epithets and do a poll. The reason I became a Democrat, first, we're the party that created Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. Do Democrats get it right all the time? No. And I think that it is as much a failure of messaging as anything else. Not suggesting that Democrats haven't gotten policies wrong, but let's not walk away from civil rights because we lost an election. Let's not walk away from health care. We believe in raising the minimum wage. We believe that there's a standard of living, at a minimum, sustainable standard of living that everybody should, if you are working and willing to work, that you should earn so that you can take care of your family. And we don't go out and argue for those things as Democrats. We've lost our way in that regard, and it is time for us to refocus on who we are and what we have always believed in, which is, again, standing up for working families and the most vulnerable.
I know that you've recently announced that you're running for a 3rd term. I'm not asking you if you're going to run for president, though your name has been bandied about. I'm just asking, do you think you would make a good president?
I think I've been a good governor, and I have no idea, except that I think the bar has been set pretty low.
Our thanks to Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker for the conversation. Coming up, her shows explore often illegal hidden underworlds. Marianne Van Zeller is here with all the details on the newest season of Trafficked. And we go by the numbers behind America's debt problem and how buy now, pay later could impact your credit score. Welcome back, everyone. If you're dealing with debt in America, you are not alone. Many are crumbling under the pressure of it, struggling to afford homes, cars, and medical treatments. We take a look at American debt by the numbers. In just the first quarter of this year, household debt hit $18.2 trillion. That's an all-time high. And that's according to data from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances. $163,000 is the average debt for households, and roughly 3 out of 4 American households are carrying some kind of debt. Home ownership is the most costly. The median debt for people with mortgage loans is $160,000, and 70% of Americans have it. Student debt is a little better, a $24,500 median. About 1 in 5 families have outstanding college loans. The constant swiping, that's certainly not helping. Credit card debt is at a median of more than $2,700, and more families carry credit card debt than mortgage debt. And it's not just the cards. $33 billion in purchases were made with buy now, pay later providers like Klarna and Afterpay. That's according to the latest Consumer Financial Protection Bureau research. A median amount of families owe $15,000 in auto loans, but many seem to be paying them off. Only 34% of Americans owe on their cars. But here's the kicker. 20 million people in the U.S. have medical debt, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation. That's despite more than 90% of Americans having insurance. Earlier this month, a federal judge blocked a rule set in place by President Biden intended to remove medical debt from credit reports. Now, thanks to what experts call a perfect storm, a triple threat could soon hit the credit score of millions of Americans. Business reporter Alexis Christoforous joins us now with more. So, Alexis, first, if you will, just explain to us what this triple threat is and why it's happening now.
Yeah, triple threat, trifecta, whatever you want to call it. Analysts are saying it could be the perfect storm for millions of borrowers. You mentioned medical debt. In addition to that, student loan debt and debt from buy now, pay later loans will soon be reflected in people's credit reports that could shave up to 20 points or more off somebody's score. Remember, credit scores are very important because lenders use them to determine whether or not someone is credit worthy. You know, should they get that mortgage? Should they get that car loan? And what are their terms?
And we were talking earlier. I was actually shocked because when the question comes up, which impacts your credit score more greatly, college or medical, I was thinking medical debt.
That a lot of people do. It's actually college debt, and there's a lot more of it out there. $1.6 trillion worth of student loan debt. 43 million people carry that debt. That's compared to 15 million people who have medical debt, and it's 6 times more than that medical debt. And, you know, since those student loan repayments have been brought back up again, you remember they were paused post-pandemic for quite some time. A lot of people are having a hard time keeping up. More than 30% of those who have a student loan are now 90 days or more late with those payments, which means they're delinquent, and it has shaved 60 points off of their credit score on average.
Let's give some tips to our viewers as far as what they can do to limit the damage to their credit scores.
Absolutely. The biggest and best thing you can do is pay your bill on time, and that might mean clicking on auto pay so that you don't miss a payment. You always want to, of course, try to pay that bill in full, but at least always pay the minimum amount. You want to aim for low credit utilization. That is just a fancy way of saying you want to use a small amount of the credit available to you. 30% or less is good. 10% or less is even better. Limit new credit applications because that can also ding your credit report, and review your credit reports regularly. You know, they're not always right, and you want to bring that to the attention of the credit reporting agencies. And finally, work with your lender. They want to work with you. If they can't freeze the payment for now, come up with an option plan so you can start paying down the debt and raising your credit score.
Of course, these buy now, pay later plans have become very popular. How do those impact your credit score?
Yeah, well, look, if you pay on time with these loans, it can be a good way to pay for big ticket items in 4 easy installments. But if you're late, you can look at interest at as high as 36% and late fees. You see right there, about 40% of borrowers now are late with those payments, and 25% are using them for the necessities like gas and groceries. It was really meant to pay for big ticket items like furniture and you know, electronics.
That says a lot about today's current climate. All right, Alexis Christoforous, we thank you so much for your insight as always. Still ahead, tense moments on the football field while a Miami Dolphins player was airlifted to a local hospital after the team's first practice. And up next, our conversation with journalist Mariana Van Zeller. We discuss the hit series Trafficked and the shocking revelations she uncovered about cartels seeping into American soil. Why FEMA's top search and rescue expert is resigning, a frightening medical emergency at the Dolphins training camp, and the surprise reunion moment delighting Parent Trap fans. These stories and more in tonight's Rundown. Connecticut state and local leaders are speaking out after they say an Afghan interpreter who worked alongside U.S. service members during the Afghan war was taken by masked ICE agents outside a government building.
We promised them we would bring them here. They would be safe. Zia thought he was safe.
Referring to the man only as Zia, officials say that he was in the United States legally due to direct threats from the Taliban. In a statement to our partner station WTNH, DHS says that Zia is under investigation for what they claim is a serious criminal allegation. A judge has temporarily postponed Zia's deportation, and his lawyer has filed a habeas petition. The head of FEMA's Urban Search and Rescue Branch, Ken Bagorek, has resigned. ABC News sources say that he told colleagues he was frustrated by the Department of Homeland Security's efforts to dismantle FEMA and by new hurdles that slow the agency's response to the catastrophic flooding in central Texas. DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin denied Pagorek's reported reason for leaving, telling ABC News in part, the attempt to spin a personal career decision into some big scandal is ridiculous. Venus Williams is officially engaged.
He encouraged me to get through this, and it's wonderful to be here. He's never seen me play, so,
Well, I'd say he's a good luck charm.
The tennis superstar confirmed that she and actor Andrea Preti are planning to marry. In an interview after winning her first singles match in 2 years, Preti, an actor, director, writer, and model, is known for his work in the 2015 film One More Day and most recently starred in the 2023 film Temptation. Miami Dolphins offensive lineman Byron Matos was airlifted to the hospital after suffering an undisclosed injury at the end of practice during Dolphins training camp. The injury happened in the final minutes of day one of the camp. Matos, a second-year offensive tackle, is now in stable condition, according to the team. The Dolphins did not release information on the injury. This alarming video shows the moment a diver is bitten on the arm while surrounded by sharks off the Florida coast. The diver calls out after the shark bites him, removing a fishing net stuck on its head. The shark quickly swam away from the others. The diver received 40 stitches. He's now out of the hospital. The Freakier Friday premiere was also a Parent Trap reunion for Lindsay Lohan and two of her former co-stars. Lohan met with Elaine Hendricks and Lisa Ann Walter on the purple carpet at the premiere.
I was very happy to see her. It had been a while. She was a little girl the last time I saw her. Now she's all grown up and beautiful and all the B words. So, yeah.
And happy, and a mom.
Hendricks famously portrayed Meredith Blake in the hit 1998 film, while Walter played Chessie. With 4 Emmy wins and nearly 30 nominations this year alone, our next guest has made a name for herself as one of the most fearless journalists on television. In her hit series Trafficked with Mariana Van Zeller, she goes inside global black markets to uncover how criminal networks really operate, and this new season may be her most urgent yet. Let's take a look.
Usted ya cree que nosotros no somos policías y que somos periodistas, espero. Ya tiene confianza en nosotros.
Claro que sí.
Bien, pero ¿y las personas que trabajan con usted aquí, cómo se sienten?
No es confianza, no podemos besar las señoras. Ni yo tampoco, pero...
Mariana, thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You go once again to some of the most dangerous corners on the planet. What keeps you going back?
Since I was a young kid, I wanted to be a journalist, and soon after starting my career as a journalist, I realized that I was really fascinated by these illegal black markets, these corners of the world that we rarely get access to, but have an enormous impact on our daily lives.
And this season opens really with a look at how much Mexican cartels have really submerged themselves, penetrated American communities. What would you say shocked you most?
First of all, I think it's against any idea that we have about how they operate in the United States is that a lot of their operators are actually American citizens. Then the drugs actually come from official ports of entry. They don't come in, the majority of the drugs don't make it across the border through tunnels, although some of them do, but the majority of them actually come through official ports of entry. And then
how?
With cars, with a lot of times, the majority of times actually with American citizens, with cars or trucks packed with drugs. And then the distribution, how it's done in the United States. I sat across a guy who goes by the name of El Gringo, American citizen, doesn't speak a word of Spanish, has actually never even traveled to Mexico. And he's one of the big operators and distributors for the Sinaloa cartel. And he was telling me that a lot of the drugs that he distributes, he does so on commercial airlines. He told us that his preferred airline was actually Delta, because they have have a great baggage fee, and you can take more
And
kilos
nobody's
or more
checking,
pounds.
Nobody's checking what's in the bags?
What he told me, which was really surprising, was that it is very likely that if you're leaving on a plane from the West Coast towards the East, that it will probably have drugs in it. The plane will have drugs with it. And a lot of times they use women to carry those drugs. A lot of times it's strippers. So all of that was sort of brand new information, even for myself who've been covering the cartel for so long.
A lot of the people who you meet with, we might have the perception that these are dangerous people, are bad people. You spend years gaining their trust. How do you go about doing that? And also, how do you keep yourself safe? How do you know that they're trustworthy?
Yeah, it takes, like you said, months, sometimes even years to gain their trust. And they do so. They talk to us, I think, for ego. They want to boast about what they do. Sometimes their families don't even know they do what they do. We give them an opportunity behind a mask to talk to us. I think the wanting to be understood goes a long way. You know, I tell people I'm here not with judgment. I'm here to try to understand why you do what you do. And I think that, you know, if you treat people with respect, they will treat you with respect back.
With so much darkness that you see firsthand in kind of the underbelly, if you will, what gives you hope after it all?
Being able to connect with people, even the people that we consider the bad guys, on a very human level. You know, I've had the privilege of traveling to the furthest edges of our society, right? And to still be able to sit across from somebody and find redeemable qualities about them and find some sort of redemption and find humanity, I think that has given me a lot of hope. They're not out of reach. There are ways of ending these black markets and preventing violence, but as long as there is inequality, there is going to be violence in the world.
Well, we thank you so much for doing what you do. As a journalist, I can tell you I have the utmost respect for your reporting and going out there, continuing to do it 20 plus years at this point.
Thank you, Linsey. I mean, it means the world because I have the utmost respect for you, so thank you.
Thank you, thank you. You can catch the new season of Trafficked with Mariana Van Zeller Saturday nights at 9 on National Geographic. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you so much for streaming with us.